So let's go over the illustration project. This is about critical literacy and illustrations. That's it. And so in order to do that, in order to get a handle on what does this mean, we are going to be looking at, each of you will be looking at the illustrations of one award-winning illustrator. So whether that's Ezra Keats award-winning, Caldecott winning, if you'd like to bring up another one, we can talk about it, please let me know. But find an award-winning illustrator. Look at 3 to 5 books so you can get a range of how they're approaching illustrations. And then do a close reading of their images. Use the material that we have, especially in chapter 4, where they're talking about the language we use to describe and analyze images, in order to do just that in your paper. Because after you do it for these books, then teaching them, sharing them with kids becomes so much richer. So the tasks here are 1, choosing the illustrator, then 3 to 5 page analysis, and finally creating an interactive assignment for future students. So future students, remember, you can interpret broadly whether this is a classroom or a library or a university or a master class, whatever this is, what that means, that's what you're going to be doing right here. And I have some examples here, as well as an example from, here are some resources for finding different illustrators. And here is an example of how you do this without, say, summarizing or just describing what's going on. Now, this is not a Caldecott winning artist. This is an illustrator from the golden age of fairy tales, because that's what I study. And it's looking at the way this illustrator, Henry Clark, usually called Harry Clark, is incorporating race into 19th century fairy tale images and actually doing it in very problematic ways that reflect larger ideas of empire in Great Britain, which Harry Clark, as one of the few Irish fairy tale illustrators, is confronting head on at this time. At the same time, Clark is drawing these images for this fairy tale book, he's also illustrating the war records for all of the World War I soldiers who fell during the Great War serving Britain, which is this huge point of contention and sort of a spark for the revolution that's eventually going to end in Irish freedom and independence from Great Britain after 800 years of colonial rule. And so Clark is right in the middle of this battle. Now, whether these images are trying to point out colonial exploitation, or the fact that colonial exploitation is just part of what's going on in Great Britain, we can't really tell. But considering this whole context, here's what's going on. And so if you notice, I have open with a thesis. It's usually not where you put it. You usually put it at the end of the first paragraph, but I open with it there. And then I include images. You should include images too, because as you need to describe it in words. This image that has bam, 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 I describe the image here, then needs to be visually depicted, added sort of bonus for your reader. And if you'll notice here, both the protagonist and the fairy godmother are united by this pale skin that they share. And the fairy helper is a person with a darker skin and a diminutive size. And this sort of image occurs again and again, like this end piece that occurs in multiple fairy tales in this collection, where we have the couple with their pale skin walking off happily into the sunset, being followed by a servant of color, again diminutive size, and you'll notice this servant is carrying 2 birds of paradise, which would have been imported from Asia to the the UK, which was a huge, huge business, incredibly depleted that amazing avian population. And so the exploitation of the colonial other in the pursuit of colonial happiness is something we see again and again and again and again throughout the collection of Harry Clarke's illustrations. And he only did a few because he died very young. So see there, you had a theme, a point, an argument being made about what these images are doing. That's the sort of thing that you're looking for in this paper. Doesn't mean you're going to be making that same argument. In fact, it would be very unlikely if you were, but this is a way that you do this. So, can't wait to see what you all do.